So this is your reminder that when we start working towards big goals, usually there's going to be a lot of chaos, friction, and issues that happen because of that. And not in the way you're thinking. Let me break it down. When we think of going after a goal, a big vision, outcome, whatever it might be, we intuitively and instinctively probably all understand that it's going to cost me, the goal seeker, something to get to the goal. Some combination usually of time, effort, money, and such, right? Generally speaking, resources of some sort. We all kind of get that, right? What isn't as apparent and obvious to the uninitiated, and this is also a reason why so many people stay stuck where they're at, even though they think they're working towards their goals. What isn't so obvious to the uninitiated is that at the end of the day, the outcomes that you and I have, the results that we have in our life, match who we are. As the saying goes, in life, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. Any result that a man has in his life means that that result is congruent with his self-identity, with who he is as a person. See the classic formula of be, do, have, right? Be, identity. Who you are comes first. How you show up, how you operate. Now, what that means is, if you just simply use logic, the results that you and I have right now in our life are a direct correlation to and a causality from who we are at this moment in time. If you have a goal, a few things by default are automatically, by definition, true. One of them being, if something's a goal, that means you don't have it, because you don't have goals for things you have. They're no longer a goal, right? So if something is a goal, that means you don't have it. If you don't have it, then that means your identity isn't yet fully congruent with having that outcome by default, right? As a byproduct of your identity. Which then means point number 3, to go from where you're at now to having the goal, the outcome, realized, there's going to have to be some amount of change and transformation within yourself, your self-identity, and how you show up in life and in the world. And the bigger the goal is, the bigger the gap between where you're at now and where you want to be, should you successfully achieve that goal. The bigger the gap, the bigger the transformation and the change to your self-identity that's going to have to happen in order for you to hit the goal. Because again, the results that we have in our life as men are a reflection, a correlation to, and a causality of our identity. Now, what do you think is going to be the cost in your life if you suddenly set out on a massive journey of transformation and elevation in your self-identity? What do you think that might do to your habits, your personality, what you value, what you no longer value, what you seek, what you no longer enjoy, what you tolerate, what your new boundaries might be, etc., etc., etc. Some things that my goals in life have cost me include multiple relationships with women that I've been in romantic relationship with, twice that I've been engaged. I've never been married, but twice that I've been engaged. And then I pulled a plug. I've fully outgrown 3 entire sets of friends. In some instances, I also moved into a completely different area dramatically, completely different part of the country. In some instances, I traveled internationally. At one point, I backpacked for about a year and a half through Central and South America. Whenever you go after a really big goal, and if you actually understand that a prerequisite to accomplishing any big major goal is going to first and foremost be about the transformation, the elevation of your self-identity, while we intuitively and instinctively understand and can probably kind of sort of assess the hard costs, what I talked about at the beginning of the video, the resources we're going to have to invest to get to the goal, time, money, energy, and so forth. What many don't understand is the soft costs that are a result of what happens when you start shifting your self-identity, when you start transforming your self-identity, and then things in your life that you actually enjoy start becoming incongruent with who you are. And you start vibrating, to use a cheesy metaphor, an analogy, a cliche and cheesy analogy, you just start vibrating at a different pace, at a different frequency as you elevate. That can create all kinds of emotional, mental, and energetic chaos and havoc in your life for a season. Think of this like going from being a caterpillar to a butterfly. First, you got to go through the cocoon stage. In the cocoon stage, what many people don't realize is that the caterpillar turns into complete liquid. Every part of the structure of what the caterpillar once was is gone. If you crack open a cocoon at one of the stages, it is literally all liquid. And then it starts turning into a butterfly. Now, I know, again, that's corny and cliche, but it is very appropriate here as an analogy, because any large goal you go after is going to, by default, require you to also go through a transformation in your self-identity and your consciousness. The bigger the goal, the bigger the gap, the bigger the gap, the bigger the transformation. The bigger the transformation, the more you will have to change. The more change you go through, the more things you're going to have to shake loose, let loose, and outgrow that currently today might be good, fun, happy, etc. The life of a butterfly and the life of a caterpillar are both independently, for the sake of this analogy, enjoyable and fun. But they live 2 very different lives. Do you understand what I'm saying? So don't fall under this. Don't fall victim or be in the trap of this illusion that I see so many people seem to have, so many men especially seem to have, that once you start to really focus on your self-development and your personal growth and locking in and going after your goals, that suddenly everything's going to be good and calm. Actually, quite the opposite generally happens. One of the biggest points of resistance I see men run into if they're in a relationship is their girlfriend or wife. Because suddenly the man putting more time into the big goals is time taken away from spending with the girlfriend or wife, as an example. Not always, I'm just saying as an example, right? Suddenly you start going for your big goals and you just no longer care to go sit all weekend long at the bar watching football games with your buddies anymore, with your friends anymore. You start to disconnect from those guys. And the thing is that you no longer want to hang out with them and talk about the same stupid shit, but you haven't just quite yet created the next level of success, so you haven't opened the doors to friendships and relationships with the guys at the next level. So there you are in no man's land. There you are. You're not in Egypt anymore. You're sick of that shit. You left. But you're not quite in Jericho in the promised land just yet either. You're wandering in the proverbial desert. AKA, you're not a caterpillar anymore, but you ain't quite got your wings yet. You're a cocoon. And most men will fall back to being a caterpillar. They will fall back to going back to Egypt. That's just what most people will end up doing. It's not even so much the hard costs that we find too hard to give. It's the soft costs that we don't know how to factor for and anticipate out of the gate. And they're the ones that have the biggest emotional and energetic and mental toll on us. And we don't want to pay that. We don't want to lose what good thing we might have with a girlfriend, or what comfort and joy and pleasure, comfort and joy we have with the friends that we have now, or the satisfaction and happiness that we get with some of the routines that we have now. But if we were to elevate, those routines are going to go away. There's this, again, another corny, cheesy quote that I've heard before is, new levels, new devils, right? To get to the next level, when you get to the next level, there's going to be a new devil, right? As a metaphor. What some people don't talk about or don't seem to realize is that to leave the level that you're at, the devil at that level is going to fight to keep you from leaving. They ain't going to just let you go. You understand what I'm saying? And I think one of the biggest factors, if not the number one factor, that keeps men in the bonds and the bondage of mediocrity are the hooks of emotional anchors. Because we don't want to spend a season of our life and some time being in the proverbially wandering in the desert between Egypt and not out of Egypt, but not quite yet in the promised land. We don't want to spend time as a cocoon. We just want to go straight from caterpillar to butterfly. It don't work like that. So whoever needs to hear this message, I trust that they will hear this message. And if you're going through a season of your life like that, then take heart, my friend, and understand that this is a rite of passage. It's not you. It's the universe. This is how the game is played. Welcome to the game. Welcome to the layer cake. To climb the layers of the cake, you have to pay the price at every level. And a part of the price, the rite of passage, and the cost of the entry ticket to the next level, is always going to be some version of a cocoon stage, wandering in the desert stage, no man's land stage, between the level that you're at now and the level that you're trying to get to. And the biggest chaos and havoc, it ain't going to come from the work you got to do, the tangible, what I call hard costs, the things you can measure easily and figure out on a piece of paper with your prefrontal cortex. Time, habits, things, X, Y, Z. It's not that. That is a cost, but that's not the biggest toll. The biggest toll is what's going to start happening in here. Your heart, your emotions, your body. So much more I could say about this, but this is where I'll leave it. I think for those who are meant to hear this message, you've heard enough to understand what I'm saying. And if you're going through it, then just remember, that means you're on the right path. That means you're actually going through that rite of passage. And if you have taken efforts before to go after goals and somehow kind of get stuck all the time and never quite punch through, I would invite you to consider what chaos and havoc was starting to come up and get wreaked at throughout your entire life because of the changes that you started making. And then when the friction and turbulence from that became too strong, you caved and gave in. Because you wanted to be happy. You wanted to be comfortable. You didn't want to be in a messy middle stage. You didn't want to lose the girlfriend. Didn't want to lose the friends. Didn't want to lose the wife. Or at least didn't want to make her unhappy. Whatever it is. But it's some version usually of us wanting to avoid emotional friction internally and externally with other people. So intrapersonal emotional friction and interpersonal emotional friction. And those are the hooks of the emotional anchors that I'm talking about that hold us down. Got to cut those loose if you want to elevate, my friends.